Some of the biggest scheduled movie releases this year as well, some which will inevitably shift to next year as things normalize, include The Fault in Our Stars remake Dil Bechara starring Sushant Singh Rajput, The Girl on the Train remake starring Pariniti Chopra, and the Forrest Gump remake Lal Singh Chadda starring Amir Khan. Where these are only some of the international remakes that are slated to release in the upcoming months, our national remakes also haven't slowed down. The remake of the Tamil film Munni 2 in the form of Lakshmi Bomb starring Akshay Kumar, the remake of the Telugu film Taxiwala in the form of Khali Pili, and the most awaited Telugu movie remake of Jersey starring Shahid Kapoor. My entire point of referencing the stories is that the upcoming big commercial releases have become formulaic and are only analyzing final products and the success of those films as precursors to not produce art, but just praying that they mimic the same results. India is a country with a rich history of stories. These range from folklore, mythology, fiction, post-apocalyptic imagery, all originating from the brainchild of Indians and most importantly, set in India. Anything that integrates a new interpretation of a historic text or provides a fictional tale set in historic events have done exponentially well in both films and games. You look at films like Troy and 300 or games like God of War and Assassin's Creed. They have been storytelling masterpieces that have been remembered over several years. This country truly is a land of stories, and here is my pitch at presenting a few ideas of Indian stories which can transform into spectacular films. The story of Devayani and Kutch. Okay, yes, I'm late to the boat, I understand, but the Woot series Asur, it literally opened up a Pandora's box for me, leading to my obsession with reading about the history of gods and demons, Devs and Asurs. It made me realize just the compelling and layered stories we possess in the country and how easily they can become films or even translate into modern day adaptations. One such story is regarding Kutch and Devayani. At a time when the demons and gods were at constant battles with each other, the gods found themselves at a disadvantage as the demons possessed the power through the Mrit Sanjeevani to revive the dead back to life. Wars would often lead to the demons regenerating and the gods unfortunately losing many men. This knowledge was in the hands of the guru of the Asurs, Shukracharya. In order to seize that knowledge, Kutch, a Dev, is sent to the guru to become his apprentice and learn the technique of putting the Mrit Sanjeevani into practice, while at the same time impress Devayani, his daughter, so that his intentions are never doubted and gets the guru's blessings. The Asurs were always cautious of Kutch and his ulterior motive, so much so that they attempted and succeeded at killing him 3 times, as in the process, he makes sure Devayani grows fond of him. Each time his body perished by the hands of the Asurs, Devayani would request her father Shukracharya to bring him back to life. The 3rd time, however, the Asurs did something unimaginable. They burned Kutch's body and mixed the ashes in a drink and offered it to Shukracharya. Shukracharya consumed the drink, and upon knowing that Kutch has perished, Shukracharya asks Devayani if Kutch is to be revived, he would have to tear his body and kill him. Who would she rather want in her life? In this dilemma, Shukracharya ponders further and imparts the Mrit Sanjeevani knowledge to Kutch in his body, only to be utilized and kill Shukracharya. Kutch is resurrected from the dead, and he does the same, using the Mrit Sanjeevani to revive Shukracharya. After 1000 years of penance, Kutch returns to heaven, even abandoning Devayani. How a moral and righteous man learns the ultimate trait from a man who was nothing but kind, only to utilize it to perish the same kind as his mentor, will be a compelling adaptation of characters in a fix when morals and orders are in constant conflict with each other. Didda, the forgotten Hindu queen of undivided Kashmir. Did you know about her? History has more or less shunned this mind-boggling tale of the ruler of Kashmir from 980 to 1003. Most of the information provided in this case is from the Rajtarangini, providing historical verses from the northwest Indian subcontinent, particularly Kashmir. There is nothing more delicious than imagining an epic period film revolving around the queen, both from a character standpoint as well as the politics around her. A child that was denounced by her own father as unwanted as she was a cripple. Being from the kingdom of Lohar, her marriage with the king of Kashmir, Semagupta, united the two kingdoms. Didda was considered to be unapologetically ruthless with execution and lustful for power, an understandable byproduct of a troubled past of never feeling belonged in her own family. Didda, as her husband died of illness, avoided Sati by putting Semagupta's first wife in the fire, and the subsequent death of even her son Abhimanyu practiced the power of regent of the kingdom throughout, even combating Mahmud Ghaznavi twice as he tried to infiltrate India through Kashmir. In fear of resentment towards her and attempts to overthrow her, she went to lengths of killing her own grandchildren. She was known to have concubines and a lover called Tunga, a herdsman, yet skilled to alert Didda of all warnings and potential attacks. I can already imagine a Bansali epic with Tabu playing the crippled Hindu queen from Kashmir, willing to annihilate friend, family, or foe for power. It would be cinematic gold. The original conspirator. Ramayana is a Sanskrit epic from ancient India that is still celebrated and relevant in so many ways. This movie pitch originates from the article written by Pallavi Thakur for The Speaking Tree. The catalyst for the saga of Ram rescuing Sita from the shackles of Ravan in Lanka is considered to be her kidnapping. The interpretation, which can be a fascinating tale for a movie and which can easily translate into a thrilling modern-day adaptation, is if we consider Surpanakha to be the conspirator of the entire war. Valmiki's version showcases Surpanakha approaching Ram and Lakshman as they are in exile in the forest of Panchvati, asking for their hand in marriage. After being rejected, enraged and humiliated, Surpanakha attempts to attack Sita but gets her nose chopped off. Upon reporting this account to Ravan, especially mentioning the beauty of Sita, Ravan feels compelled to kidnap her, not due to the empathy that he feels for his sister but the desire of a beautiful woman. But what if all of this was the conspiracy of Surpanakha? You might ask, why would she want to pit Ravan against the incarnation of Vishnu in the form of Ram? What is not explored in Ramayana is that Surpanakha had married a Danav king called Vidyut Jiva. In some other texts referenced as Dushta Buddhi, Ravan was displeased with the union as Danavs were always at loggerheads with the Rakshasas, but eventually accepted the marriage. Upon understanding the Danav king's ulterior motive of wanting to overthrow Ravan and acquire absolute power, Ravan in self-defense kills his brother-in-law. Distraught and full of vengeance, Surpanakha divided time between Lanka and the forests of southern India, only to realize that the best way to avenge her husband's murder is to pit a man against him who can't be defeated.
उसकी सुंदर आंखें हैं, लुभाने वाला अंग अंग है, रंग उसका पिघले हुए सोने के मानिंद है.
Hence, a storyline of a wronged woman, chastised for association, ridiculed for appearance, and who experiences loss of no fault of her own, sows the seed for the ultimate destruction. Take my money and make this now. The Immortals of Melua. There is only a small portion of the population that really dares to create fictional tales or new interpretations of some of the most revered and worshipped figures from Indian mythology. Amish Tripathi is one such author who has created a compelling franchise of sorts with some of the most popular characters. A film, however, that can be pitched at the scale and can reach the box office potential of Bahubali is his book The Immortals of Melua. The book and its film adaptation rights have been in limbo since 2015, with Karan Johar bagging the film rights to them expiring and now rumors that Sanjay Leela Bansali has acquired those rights. We can just wait in anticipation. The story set in 1900 BC focuses on the land of Melua, established by the celebrated monarch Ram, the greatest there ever was, as the once perfect empire is facing several perils in the form of their primary river Saraswati drying up and the incessant attacks by the Chandravanshis and the Nagas. There will come a hero that will protect the sacred land of the Suryavanshis. A perfect setup for a period epic that can transform into a franchise and a universe with several characters emerging from across the globe. Any Asur origin story. Over a period of time, as I have read about Indian mythology, there are several stories related to Asurs that have really captivated me. Asurs are superhuman demigods who are constantly at loggerheads with the Devs, their benevolent counterparts. Here are two stories and how their modern day adaptations can become extremely exciting film concepts. Indrajit. How Ravan's son Meghanath went on to become one of the most valiant and capable warriors and defeated Indra, the god of gods, is a fascinating tale. This dates from the time Asurs and Devs fought and the Devs were at a disadvantage. The only way to overpower them was to obtain the divine nectar which gives immortality from the depths of the ocean. For this they needed the help of the Asurs, and therefore the Devs approached the leader of the Asurs to haul the divine nectar and agreed to split it in half. But the Devs deceived the Asurs and denied providing them even a drop of the nectar. This led to the immortal Devs growing in power and the Asurs slowly diminishing into oblivion. Ravan has a son, Meghnath, who avenges the injustice caused to his own kind and defeats Indra in combat, something he never foreshadowed, as he considered himself to be superior than everyone. A storyline that encompasses the saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There is a movie titled Indrajit, Rise of the Valiant, created by the Thought Cloud Studio, which I would highly recommend you check out on YouTube. The Demon King. This is in reference to a game concept created by Ogrehead Studio called Asur the Demon King. The storyline provides for the perfect setup for an anti-hero on the path of vengeance. A village which is extremely superstitious finds themselves in the midst of a monk who prophesies that the entire town will be absolutely destroyed unless an innocent from the town is sacrificed. The sergeants and army men scout through the village and find a boy suitable for the sacrifice. How this child dies in agony and pain, leaving his soul disturbed and tortured, the mortals believe that they have liberated the village from perishing. But little do they know that they have sown the seed for the birth of the demon demon king, Asur. The little boy in the form of a demon comes back for vengeance, a brilliant concept that can incorporate the living, the dead, and the in-between. What are some concepts from Indian history and mythology that you would like to see in the form of films? Write it down in the comments below. And that was the video, guys. Write it down in the comments below whether you have some video ideas for our channel. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.